Pancake, everyone. Airlines offer a wide range of services and a choice of tickets to make passengers feel comfortable flying with them. But what brings such a business the most profit? Let's find out together. The history of the beginning of flights with comfort. Do you think planes had leather seats and cute flight attendants from the very start? Sorry, but we have to disappoint you. Everything was completely different. Civil aviation began its journey in 1920. And back then, only the rich could afford to fly. Also, planes and flight conditions differed significantly from what we have today. The first prototype of business class appeared in 1976. It was introduced by KLM, and the program was called Full Fare Facilities. This business class did not have a dedicated cabin, being merely an extension of economy class. 2 years later, British Airways picked up this idea, albeit they made it a separate cabin from all of the others. This is where the cult of comfort originates. Carriers began trying to modernize this section, make it more luxurious, try different types of seats, and provide service to sell tickets for people at a higher level. Prices, of course, also grew progressively. Thus, having the same plane and the same route to the destination, they learned to sell literally the same product for more money. Companies that had several fares received many times more revenue, with the same number of passengers in total. After dividing the plane into classes, they began to divide tickets. A shining example of marketing in those days. Another exceptional feature was the sale of tickets. There was a dual system in place at that time. There were tourist tickets and basic ones, that is, ordinary ones. The point being that they differed in price and were intended for different castes of people. Based on the name of the first one, we understand that the buyers were tourists who planned their trip in advance and purchased tickets not every day. For them, the price could be around $230. As for the usual tickets, they were bought for work and business flights, where all expenses were covered by the company, and tickets were bought just a couple of hours before departure. Their price could be as high as $450. This was the most glaring example of a classification system in air transportation. Again, the same product was sold at different prices, creating conditions suitable for different target audiences. Tourists did not need such flexibility, but they wanted to save money. As for employees who the company bought tickets for at the expense of the corporation, there was no difference how many times more expensive they were. The important thing was the result and adaptability. Time travel or just supersonic civil aviation? A brilliant joint project of France and Great Britain, which shone brightly and also quickly went out. Supersonic aviation began in 1969, when the Concorde aircraft first broke away from the Earth's surface. What made this vessel special was the fact that it was capable of flying back and forth from London to New York on the same day. And that's because the aircraft could achieve speeds of up to 1,354 miles per hour. Celebrities, entrepreneurs, and other VIPs would fly on this plane, and they had access to something that people did not see on ordinary planes: a flight altitude of 65,616 feet. This was on the edge of space, where you could even see the curvature of the Earth, an indescribable sight. That said, the liner was not very comfortable. The aisle, as well as the seats, were very narrow. During the flight, due to the passage of the sound barrier, everyone on board was literally squeezed into the seats. Now, to make up for this, passengers were constantly served champagne. Probably one of the main features was a lack of separation of the cabin into classes. Now, unfortunately, their early years coincided with the oil crisis. It made them very unprofitable, and the cost of tickets became so sky-high that even the wealthiest people could not afford them for the most part. Any system has an expiration date, which is something that also pertains to flights in the sky. Starting in 1969, interesting events began to unfold in the world of aviation. An example of this was the first flight of the Boeing 747. Which allowed, because of the scale of the aircraft, experiments with zones, classes, and luxury inside them. It became the first double-decker vessel, where the business class was located on the second floor and had 20 seats, which creates the feeling of a private plane. Now, before that, airlines were under strict control of the US government, but then a decision was made to encourage competition in the market, to deregulate the industry, and reduce government control over aviation. And so this business got freedom and full control over ticket prices. And now, having 4 classes and different types of tickets, they focused their attention on creating first class and proper boarding of passengers in the cabin. And so for the first time, the usual seating arrangement we're all used to appeared. Those who paid the full fare sat in front, and those who flew with a discount sat in the back. Dear viewers of the channel, we are happy to create content for you, and we want to ask for support in the form of likes and comments. If you like to learn something new and interesting all the time, now enjoy the rest of the video. Why, after the introduction of this sky-high comfort, did almost all airlines abandon the idea of first class on their vessels? Given the mistakes of the Concorde, airlines began to divide the cabin into sections and classes. First class is a limited number of premium seats that are fully reclinable. There are built-in TVs, a vast media library, and what feels like endless albums with music. Such services were paid for by stars, politicians, and simply businessmen. And as most of the flights were transcontinental, airlines tried to equip the first class with all of the amenities, which could include a separate bed, lighting, and even sliding doors. Everything to make the passengers feel comfortable and protected. But there was a problem: competition and increasing technological progress. As a result, first-class ticket sales were on the decline, and companies decided to reorientate towards the average level of travelers. And the reason it became more difficult to sell such tickets is because passengers did not understand why they would overpay several $1,000s, if in the end they could get the same thing but at a lower cost. And so the differences between business class and first class have become almost indistinguishable. Currently, there are no more than 6 well-known carriers who continue to render such services. Differences between business and economy class. So what goes into such different pricing between the two classes that are on the same plane? Perhaps there are no privileges at all? The main reason why airlines can charge a much higher price for business class tickets is that they have various additional services, providing a more comfortable and prestigious flight for passengers, and for themselves, profit from high sales. It all starts with the arrival to the airport. Ticket holders of a higher class have a separate waiting room, where they are able to choose drinks and food for free. In there it's quiet, peaceful, and there are televisions to pass the time. At the same time, economy class passengers crowd into the lobby and pay money for snacks in the airport food courts. Business class also has its own separate check-in desk, a hotel boarding path, and sometimes even a hotel transfer. Those who did not want to overpay while in the cabin fly the entire flight with the seat back in the same position, which obviously feels cramped and causes discomfort. In business class, everything is wider. There's more room, more comfort, the seat backs can be reclined, the distance between the rows is 78 inches, and the seat itself is twice as wide as those in economy, at 34 inches. As for the food, the differences perhaps are only in the way it's served. Those who fly in economy get their food later, and in plastic packages, and drinks in paper cups. For privileged guests, everything is brought out in beautiful dishes. And sometimes you can choose alcoholic beverages from the menu beforehand. The amount of hand luggage in economy is 1 unit. You can carry twice as many things into the business class without paying anything extra for it, so any wishes can be granted for your money, and the choice is always up to the tourist. Benefit. Is it true that most of an airline's profit comes from selling business-level tickets? The aviation industry is an incredibly profitable business, and airline profits depend heavily on the sale of airline tickets. One of the main factors determining how much an airline earns is the difference between the amount of money they earn on business class tickets compared to economy class tickets. Airlines receive much more money from business tickets than from similar economy tickets. Therefore, an airline's profit from the sale of such tickets is much higher. As a result, companies offering business class tickets receive more money than those with only one class of flights. Let's look at the example of British Airways with a Chicago-Lisbon flight on an Airbus 320 aircraft. A round-trip ticket will cost $1,491 in economy class, and there are 180 such seats in total, and that means the company's revenue from it will be $268,000. There are 150 seats in business class, and the ticket price is $9,277. So in this case, we're looking at a whopping $1,391,000 of revenue. Just think about it, this is 5 times more revenue than from the coach class. Therefore, it is business class that brings airlines big profits, and they try to make sure that this part of the cabin is completely filled. We hope you found this episode interesting and you learned a lot of new information. Let us know in the comments what kind of transport you prefer on your trips. Thank you for watching, we wish you all a good mood and a fair wind. See you soon. Pancake, everyone.